What's up, everybody? I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to The Right Mindset. As always, we're here to interview some guests, and the guest we have here today is Mr. Quincy Jackson, not of Action Jackson fame, but of You're Gonna Love This Guy. What is up, Quincy? How's it going?
Hey, how you doing? I'm glad to be here, as usual, Yeah.
Do you want me to use the radio voice the entire time?
No. Yes, the entire time, please.
So tell us about your statistics.
Well, the statistics today are, yeah.
Now, we heard you retired from football and became a whole completely different person, taller and a writer.
Indeed so. You got it right.
Yo, what's up, Quincy? No, Quincy and I, we met through the YouTube channel, The Right Mindset, and we've been talking, and I was like, Quincy, we got to get you on just to get you a little chitting and a little chatting. And he's like, I love chitlins. And I was like, I also like chicklins. Am I saying that right? I don't know. I just eat them.
He said it in two different ways, but whatever.
But yeah, I tried to correct myself the second time.
Chitlins and chicklins. I'm like, okay, well, chicklins could work too,
It's chitlins, right?
Chitlins, I think it's chitlins.
Yeah. Give me some chitlins. So anyway, what's up? I don't know if you know. I obviously you watch the show. You watch the interviews. I support the channel. So, what do we talk about on this? No,
don't put me on the spot.
For the audience out there, we like to talk about not only the process of writing, but also the perspective of the author or writer or creative from their perspective in the industry. Because remember, our experiences are all different. But more importantly, what do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about your writing process? Do you want to talk about your career as a writer? Do you want to talk about bananas, ice cream? What? It's your choice.
I love ice cream.
Who does banana ice cream splits on a Sunday? That's no,
maybe for you. I like more caramel and ice cream, like vanilla and caramel. I'm a weird, classic guy. I don't like my shit to be too mixed up.
Well, me. I'm a fan of the chocolate, not the vanilla. I like it a little wild. Every girl I've ever been with.
Oh my goodness.
Just keeping it alive.
In New York, there's a flavor there.
There is a delicious flavor. Variations, variety, one might even say.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said vanilla correctly. A lot of people say vanilla, but it's vanilla. There's an I in it. But anyway. So, what do you want to do? You want to talk about your writing?
Yeah, we can talk about writing and stuff. I mean, you've been kind of here and there with the conversations on kind of like what I'm doing and whatnot. But writing wise, I started as a kid, and I love fantasy, fiction specifically, and most of my writing, actually, the experience I have is with comic books. So comic book writing, the script writing style of that way, both the Marvel way and the traditional way of Dark Horse.
Well, let's pause it there. Let's kind of dig deep. So for anyone listening, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the Marvel way is draw the pictures, add the copy.
Yeah.
Right, because Stan Lee created that thing. Now the Dark Horse, though, this one I'm not too familiar with, because I do know that Dark Horse is a subsidiary, right? It's like, it's not. It's a secondary, right? There's they have a major. I don't know if it's Image. I don't remember who does Dark Horse.
Dark Horse does Dark Horse, or maybe IDW now. I don't know, because Dark Horse used to be its own thing. There was the big five. It was Marvel, DC, Image, Top Cow.
Oh, and Dark Horse. Yeah,
Dark Horse.
That's where Hellboy comes from, right?
Yeah.
So what is the Dark Horse method? I'm actually kind of interested in that.
It's as close to the traditional method as you can get, like something close to script writing, right? Where you have your description, you have your breakdown of like what's going on in the scene per page. Yeah, if it's if it's action scenes, you're having like 5 panels, maybe 4. And then if it's a lot of dialogue, you might have 8 panels, and therefore you have 8 different scenes going on and what's happening in those scenes.
Well, as an example, like let's say Magneto, the most powerful Omega level I know he's not Dark Horse, but just as an example, right?
Mhm.
Magneto, right? As everyone knows, the master of magnetism, right? You know, he's an Omega level mutant. He's powerful, scary. He's for his people, right? Holocaust survivor. Can you walk us through the process of Magneto taking a crap and how many panels the actions would be?
Oh my god. Okay, well, if I were to, hmm.
If I
Okay,
were to, I'm
give me
losing
a sec.
contact. I can't hear you over there.
If it was the
What's it?
90s, of course. um. Okay, so if I were to take that, I would do an establishing shot in the apartment. So I'd go to the apartment. That'd be scene
Magneto has an
one.
apartment. I love it
Yeah,
already.
you go into an apartment. Yeah, it's messy. It's
Yeah.
like worse than what you would imagine Peter Parker living in.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
would just
Because
be in something
he's
like that.
not in his headquarters right now.
Yeah,
He's
and it's not even supposed to be his apartment. He's just in an apartment. So
he's
he's
in
just
Queens. I get it.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
And so I would imagine one scene would be him establishing shot inside the apartment, probably a little bit bird's eye view, but angled. And just to make it awkward, we could slant it on the side, so it'd be a side angle.
Oh,
So
like
it's
a
almost like
Dutch angle.
something bad is supposed to happen,
Yeah,
like
Dutch
something
angle,
real. Yeah, exactly. And so that we would have that, and then maybe have like something on the TV playing in the background. So that would be the dialogue in the background, just to cover up the sounds because he shits really loud.
Yeah, yeah.
So then we go into the next scene where the door's kind of cracked open. And we kind of look inside. We could see like an angle with the mirror, and bouncing through the mirror, you see him sitting on the toilet.
Okay.
And that would be the second scene right there. And he'd just be like,
That's where the action starts.
Exactly. That's where the action starts. And then we go to the third scene where it's just a magazine, and he's looking into the magazine, and we see the stuff like whatever he's reading. It could be about, I don't know.
Cosmopolitan. He's talking about how to pick up women.
There we go. So there we go. We're going to add that in. And he's going to be like, the line will be like, God damn, she's hot.
He said that, but the title of the article that he's reading is "How to Have Empathy for Women."
Yeah.
There's a lot of irony. There's layers.
There are layers there.
There are layers.
I mean, he's got twin children and no wife, so that's it says a lot.
He's got more than twin kids.
Yeah,
he got a bunch.
He's got a lot of kids, man. Yeah, Polaris.
Sure,
Yeah.
you sure he's from Germany, Austria? All right, so, but that would be like what? But that's like 4-panel establishing. But
yeah. So I would say like 1 page, 4 panels, 4 or 5 panels. Maybe just leave it at 3 or 4, and then open the page where he's actually on the toilet, and you just do a full page for the next page. And yeah, so basically you have your panels, your dialogue, and what you want to say. Your description always lets the artist know what you see there. Usually in scripts like this, you would be very specific, where the Marvel one is a little bit more elaborate. It allows the artist to just do whatever they want, like put the panels whichever way they want, however many
like the
panels.
general idea of what it should be in it.
Yeah, they give you a landscape of what that page could look like and feel like. But then with actual scripts, they're very specific, and they'll be like, I want this to be this camera angle. I want these things to be there. And if those pieces of information are not there, then the artist kind of gets a little bit of liberty. And then they follow with the dialogue.
As a more contemporary individual in the comic book world, do you look at Kirby's? Did it take you like a good amount of time to look at Kirby's style and technique and really appreciate it? Or were you one of those people that like saw it and you're like, this is genius right away? Because like he has a taste to his style, and like a lot of even great artists have said in interviews where they're just like, at first I was like, I don't get it. And then once you start looking at it and you start really paying attention to it, you understand what's happening. You understand that little tiny, black line over the knee is the knee. Like it's showing movement in his knee. Like, or, like once you start appreciating the style of art, it becomes masterful. But on the surface level, it's just high color concentration and boxy.
What's funny? Like, I think I was exposed to comic books pretty early in my age, so I think that those kinds of things were already innate to me, like the way to read panels, the way to look at certain scenes, speed lines, all that other stuff, even just the way that artists go about their whole pencil inking, coloring stages and stuff. And that was kind of an open door for me. And I was also exploring animation. So these things were already they all kind of worked hand in hand for me. So when I went to comic books as a way to bridge toward animation, these things were just already there. So when I would look at anyone's work, including Kirby's, it was just natural to me to be able to understand what was happening.
Like you were appreciating it on first glance. You weren't like, I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. I've never been in a moment in comic books where I was like, I don't get it. If anything, I was like that more with manga. Because you had to read it in reverse, and then their panel stuff is different, where even some panels don't even have a box, and like characters were out of the box, and you read it different. You read up, down, then to the left. It was really weird. So like that was way more of an adjustment for me.
All right. Well, with that said, that's a really good position. So I'm going to challenge it a little bit. Okay. Did you feel the same way when you looked at Rob Liefeld artwork?
Oh God! Why does everyone hate the guy's work so much?
Can't draw feet, and I don't know what to deal with.
Oh my God! People are on his ass about his work all the time on the internet and everything. Oh my gosh! It's an acquired taste. I learned that art is subjective, and I'm gonna be nice about it.
Like listening to jazz.
The guy's a legend. So I can't really say anything. I honestly can't. His Deadpool's a success. Yeah, he did get better at it. Like,
I get it.
I mean, even Jim Lee got better after a while too.
I mean, Jim Lee already started off good.
Yeah, he was pretty fucking.
He was, he was the one they went to for those huge, the fold outs or the covers.
I had the Wizard World magazine. The one that I loved the most was the one with the girls. It was Jean Grey and Rogue and Storm, and I have it somewhere here. The cover, I mean, it's falling apart at this point, but yeah, that one's like the one, like Lord of the Rings. Yeah, just a little bit, oh baby. They look good though, man. He really drew those girls really good. Like,
they're fake though, you know that.
Yeah, I know. I know. They look
well, so is most Playboy models, but that's
yeah. Jim Lee took it to another level though.
About Playgirl, there's like no women in it. Anyway, so I looked for hours and I just stared and got magnifying glasses. I couldn't find any women in it. I think I saw a reflection of a female photographer in one shot.
You ain't gonna find them nowhere.
Everyone was Richard in it. All right. Now, did you go into that world with the pre-knowledge of writing the comic book styles, or was there a learning curve? Because obviously, and I say this often to people, our dreams of being within an industry is a lot different than being in the industry. Like what we think it is and what we practice for it to be usually end up being, if not completely different, slightly, there's an adjustment. So was there a learning curve, or did you feel comfortable going right in?
No, there was a learning curve for sure. I think the technicality of script writing for me was easier to understand than it was the writing part. Because at least with the visualization, especially because it's, again, like script writing and animation, you have to have those details, right? You kind of have to already know what you want in a scene. So for me, I was kind of like, well, I can try the Marvel way. But I was like, that's too elusive. I need things to be, to be specific. So I went back to reading comic books again, but more modernized books from the time. So Image was really big at the time. For independent artists, and there was actually a studio called Dreamwave Productions that was out of Toronto that was doing really well. And so I had a bit of reference to know, like, okay, if I have competition with the kind of style that I'm doing, what are they doing? Let me see what they're up to. So I ended up befriending quite a few people from that company at that time, and I got to a little bit of insider on how they went about the process, and then I leaned into other editors. Jim Zubdovich is one of the people that from Udon Entertainment, which was post Dreamwave. He does a lot of writing as well, and so there's been moments where I've been able to kind of get into the comic book world and understand what people were doing and the way that they were writing, and then I would cross-reference what I was seeing to how that could translate into script, and kind of going like reverse engineering it, and then going, oh, okay, this is how I could go about this based on my favorite comics or whatever.
Because obviously everybody's going to have their own method, and then you're going to learn from people who kind of develop their own style within it, especially if you're dealing with editors that have a specific thing they want. What was the biggest shock, though? What was the biggest shock adjustment for you going into those? It was in the beginning, especially,
because I had a varied amount of skill sets, and I was going to do the illustration, and I had seen some people in the image bracket. One artist in particular, I can't remember her name anymore, but she did a comic book all by herself. She did the writing, she did the artwork, the inking, the coloring, everything. That was hard for me to wrap my head around because I didn't own a computer, didn't own a powerful computer at that. And then I had to lean to other people in order to accomplish that, which made it a little tricky. And especially because I wanted to teach other people how to go about that process through publishing. So it wasn't just my stuff, but other people could publish their work too. And what's going on with my screen?
Welcome
I'm just juggling
to the world. There's an earthquake over there.
Let me see. I think it's something.
Are you going through a third-party connector? Is that where it's?
Yeah, I think it is. It's glitching out a bit. Oh,
he's in the Matrix, everyone.
I am in the Matrix. My apologies, guys.
That's right. Will Smith was supposed to be the Neo originally. So.
Really?
Yeah, he was originally, and he's like, I don't think so. I don't understand what's going on. And then when he saw it, he's like, yeah, I get it.
I wish I was in it. That's everyone.
Yeah. He says it was his biggest regret. It
was not doing the Matrix.
Yeah, it was saying no.
Huh.
Whoopsie. I get it, though. I get it.
Yeah. Sorry. So where were we at before?
Well, you were in Canada, and I was in the States.
Sorry, just give me 1 second here. This is unfortunate.
Did you change your? Is it a different camera? Is it a new camera?
No, it's the same one. My unfortunately, this thing just decided that all of a sudden it just doesn't want to work with me anymore. It's just technicalities. I don't know. Now it's working. So there we go. Kind of.
See, you jinxed yourself.
As soon as I open my mouth, they're doing it off.
Quincy jinxes himself.
Okay, so where were we at? I'm trying to remember now.
You were talking about how you had zero shock because you were already an expert at it, and when you
I didn't say I was an expert at it.
With her comic book, you were like, I can do that. I don't even have a computer. I use my elbows.
So I had. That's a good paraphrase.
Every detail.
But in terms of so I had my writing intact, not really at a professional level per se, not even with comic books really. That was something I had to discover. But I had that. I had illustration. I had just been learning how to kind of do inking. Coloring was really new to me. Yeah. But I was like, I have this vision. I want to make this comic book. I will write it and then I will illustrate it. Maybe that was part of the trick as well, as you're writing it, so you're kind of biased to the artwork part, and then you start to kind of change things as you're drawing it to then add it to the script, because you're like, well, the script has to match what I've drawn. It can't just be completely off. And then trying to teach other people how to do it, getting someone else to write for them. So the writing to artwork process was probably the trickiest one.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, when I was in comics, they were always like, "All right, this is how I want to draw it," and I was like, "Okay," and they're like, "Can you draw it like that?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Oh, but it needs to be like this." I go, "Well, I don't know if you've seen other comics, but Spider-Man in Todd McFarlane's era doesn't look like Spider-Man. Issue 1.
Yeah.
Like every artist has their own style. Like I'll draw the same clothes that you want and the same, like if he has a beard or no beard, whatever. But that was always the funniest. Can you hear me, Quincy?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
As long as you can. Yeah, I can hear you. I hear you.
Okay, perfect. My apologies. I don't know what's going on.
You don't have a picture. Oh
today.
Man, I feel bad.
Yeah, it's being weird today. I don't know what's going on.
See, I got a little tiny picture. Look at that.
Yeah. So let me. I think this is being really weird, and I do apologize. Unfortunately,
that's okay. If you want to do it like this, you can. By the way, you can add a photo if you go to the hamburger dots on your video on the bottom next to the microphone. You click that and you hit edit.
There we go.
Avatar, audio avatar, and then you can upload an image if you'd like.
Okay, you know what? I will do that. So then there's at least something there until I can figure out the rest. Because my audio is fine.
Yeah, as long as it's not Dick Dickerson's. Or Mayor Wiener's, from New York is
right.
His exposure.
Oh my! Here we go. I think I got
it. Oh hell yeah, honey, put on that party dress, yeah. Hey, look at that.
There we go.
Almost identical.
We do actually. Yeah. We got the same eyes and the same smile.
I know, right? Look at that. Yeah. I almost got confused. I was like, who's who? It's like I'm on one side and you're, oh my God, look, you can't even tell.
Oh my gosh. I got a fuller beard now.
Yeah. Which side am I on? I don't know what's going on. Oh, wait, we just changed again. Well, I guess I don't need pants now. So going back, Quincy, Mr. Jackson. That's what is it? That's Mrs. Jackson if you're nasty, right?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to your career in the comic book world, was there ever a point where you're like, maybe this isn't the way I want to go with storytelling? Have you ever had? Because I know some creatives have that. Well, tell me about that. Tell me how that felt for you, and then we'll break it up.
Okay, so let's see. So originally, I wanted to be a novelist, but it was very hard for me to even grasp where to start. I didn't have the people that I have access to today, even in the past year and a half, 2 years, even just to be able to say, this author is doing what I want to do, or the way that they explain things is good. I didn't have that back then, so comic books were more of the thing that I could do because I did understand what that was like, and I'd already been practicing art. So getting into it was pretty fun until until you get into the actual industry part when you're working with a publisher or something like that, and unfortunately, you think it goes one way and it doesn't. And I'm not to say that it discouraged me or anything like that, but I'm a team player, so I really like to work with people and not just think I can do everything on my own. But when you don't have the structure to really pull that off, and you don't have the right tech, you don't have certain resources, it just makes that process very difficult. And when it came down to just me wanting to do my own thing, I couldn't really do a whole comic book on my own. And so for me, it kind of really reframed how I would go about the process and how long it would take for me to do something if I did it by myself or with one extra person, which was daunting. Just to think about that was super daunting, because I would be planning out stuff, and I'm so meticulous with that, like with calendars and whatever, and trying to plan things out. But I was like, by the time I get this book done and I get it published and I get it all, like, I'm going to run myself down trying to do all this. And then the value of people even reading comic books was changing too, because they were reading a lot of people were getting used to reading manga online.
Yeah.
And that was like a very 2007, 2008 thing. So that was when I was really like, I'm going to jump back into this. the big burnout and where I kind of really pivoted was when I was working on a couple of projects, 2.5, where I was actually doing all the illustration for
Oof.
and different styles at that. Like I
Yeah.
was using more of a realistic style for one. I was using my regular style for another one, which it was also half painted and half cell shaded. And I put so much effort into it. And then there was a virus, an April Fool's virus that came out. And apparently it makes your computer slow down, so you have to restart it. And then when you restart it, you lose everything.
Yeah, that's called porn.
Yeah.
You don't have to download it nowadays.
Right? Well, I learned my lesson.
I was young, though. This was last week.
Yeah. That was then. This is now. But no, so, but yeah, no, I ended up, I didn't actually do that. I had my stuff on a hard drive, but the virus hit the hard drive. Oh. I lost everything. And then I did it all over again from scratch. Jesus. The whole, both 2.5, I did them all from scratch all over again. And by the time I was done.
On the computer.
Part of the book was done on the computer. Some of it was done traditionally. I'm a 95% traditional artist, but at that time, I was doing a lot more digital work. And one of the books I decided to kind of sketch with pen and then like basically render the entire thing digitally, while the other one was completely traditionally made. So it was difficult. It was very difficult because it was very CGI heavy stuff that I was doing. So by the time I was done with that, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't do this. Like I am capable of doing it, but do I want to do it? And like, how much time of my life did I just devote to this?
Yeah.
And how many hours has gone into it? And it just wasn't translating properly for me. So I reset from doing anything heavily comic book based. I just stuck to doing illustration covers and spot illustrations, and then writing. I kept trying to write a lot of plot summaries, still in the way of kind of thinking I was going to do comic books, and then I was just like, yeah, I don't know if the comic book realm is for me anymore in terms of using that as a format.
Yeah, it's an interesting industry, I would say. Most likely because the process of comics has changed drastically. First of all, a lot of it is just streaming. It's digitalized, and you can go to like Marvel Unlimited or read it like that way. And like physical prints, they still sell per se, but they're not. I remember when people will buy 12 different variations of a comic. Just to have them.
Oh, yeah. All the covers, all the variants. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a downfall of comics because people were just becoming so obsessed. It actually devalued the collecting aspect of it, but anyway, so you basically are trying to completely move from the comics and go directly into what we call long form narrative. Is that your goal?
Yeah, because I've always loved that format anyways. And it helps me, like when I thought about it really critically, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine, AJ, who is a part of the novel series that I'm working on right now called Chosen Generation. He was there from the very beginning when I wanted to make it into a comic book series. And one of the things we talked about was the fact that I love artwork, but no one values art in comic books. You're doing a lot more illustration and working basically pennies to bring a vision to life, and then some people don't necessarily like certain styles, so that would also prevent people from buying the book if they immediately felt like, oh, I don't like this style, I don't want to read this book, whatever. So I was like, no, I love the power of Word, and I love not Microsoft Word, and I wanted to focus on conveying the world through word instead of through imagery.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just to jump in, it's like what you're saying with some people have, their preferences. They see a certain style of art, they don't like it. And for me, whenever I see ears, like if characters have ears, I can't even pick the book up. I can't even I'm like, this is too uncomfortable. I feel like I'm looking at other people, and I want them to feel alien to me, like Now, when you jump to the long form and realize that writing a script or even creating a panel like a visual, because that is comics are a visual medium in its foundation, right? Like it ultimately, if you take away the words, you're still able to tell a story with images.
Mhm.
But with the book, like, did your brain have to sort of start making adjustments for the immersion and the reality that, like, oh wait, I can't physically draw out the emotional state. I have to be able to draw that with words. I got to create like a movement to physical behavior and stuff like that. How did you approach that adjustment?
Um, I've always been in. I don't know. Like I feel like I've always had an ability to kind of express through words what I want to convey in emotions. But the problem was always like, what is my narrator voice? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to tell what kind of writer you are when you're accompanying writing with art, and you're the same person at that it's one thing. But when you're, how do you there is a way to tell to tell an author through the way that they write. It's just that I didn't understand what that was for me because I spent so much time in the comic book realm that I
Oh,
never
you're talking
really
about your
developed.
author's voice. Like, what is your author's voice?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that was really what staggered me at first. It's like, okay, yeah, cool. So I'm going to write a novel again. I have to undo everything I already did to then just go, okay, we're back to the novel stage. Now that I've not done anything with that for a while, like, how do I re-enter that and have a confident author's voice?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where the struggle was for me. I was like, okay, well, let me start reading some of the books that I used to like, and why do I like their voice and whatever. And I was like, well, then it came down to who is it that I relate to the most. And I couldn't find that either until I stumbled upon Brandon Sanderson. And
Yeah.
funny enough, I saw your video recently where you were
Oh,
talking about his stuff, which is hilarious because I think I had definitely mentioned something about how he really resonates, like the way that he talks, the way that he explains things, the
yeah.
complexity of his stories, the importance of being an architect and, understanding discovery writing in that sense. Because I
Yeah.
consider
He does
myself to be
both.
more of
Yeah.
an
He does a
architect. Yeah,
little.
he
Yeah.
does a little bit of both. And
Hmm.
he's the only other person I can relate to. And that's where I really started to find out that what my author voice is technically based off of the fact that there was someone that could describe things in a way that I could understand.
So you didn't pick up Stephen King's It and get to the children orgy and be like, this I relate to this.
No.
You know, it's crazy. Even at the time when that was published, nobody was like, maybe skip that. You know, have you
It's
ever read it?
interesting. It's interesting how people absorb novels and not complain about the things that are in there as much, or they do, but they wait until they finish the entire book, then say,
Yeah.
"By the way, what the hell is this?" They didn't stop partway and be like, "What the fuck? What?"
I can
Two boy
understand
warrior.
2 of them, but 6? To be honest, I have actually no preference to him writing that scene in the book because, again, it's creative, it's art. It's not actually happening. Like, it's not like there's actors having to do that scene or anything like it's
Yeah,
just the written word. And like, if we think about it, the world is filled with such terror and darkness that, like, at the same time, you have to be able to allow yourself to creatively go to these abnormal behaviors and be comfortable just sort of getting that on the page, because if it tells the story you're trying to tell, it does. But I don't think it's a representation of the author per se. I write violence in a very like, people read my violence and they go, how you're so quiet, like, how did you think of that? Like, why did he tear his femur out and stick it in the guy's head? Like, that's graphic, like,
yeah, yeah,
and I'm like, well, because I'm telling us, the narrative is that violence is bad, and it's hard on the character, and he has trauma through it. So we're experiencing the violence through a hyper lens of this character,
yeah.
and but I know Stephen King wrote that scene because it was the loss of innocence, right? That was like,
Yeah.
how can I represent loss of innocence? And it's like, well, how about they just, look at each other's genitals and laugh, and like move on, but there's one girl and there's like 5 boys, and they all have sex. And it's pretty intense. I don't know if you've ever read the book, but
No, I haven't read it. No.
but at the same time, but going back to Brandon Sanderson, I could go on for hours about how insane that is, but Brandon Sanderson, what's nice about him, and you kind of alluded to this, is like one of his secrets to writing successfully too, is that it's anyone could read. It's accessible. He writes in a way that's world building and complex in a very easy. Actually, I shouldn't say easy, but accessible way. Like he explains things thoroughly without going too crazy. But he does have certain things that I'm a little like, he'll have like a great line, like, Seth Villano, son of whatever. He's like, wore white on the day he was supposed to kill the king, and then like the next 2 or 3 sentences is all exposition. And like the movement stops. So like, there's certain times when I'm just like, I wish he would have stayed in that. It's such a strong first line,
Yeah.
and like, and then it falls to the exposition. So, but he's obviously a talented writer for many reasons. But and not because he's a Mormon.
He looks like a Mormon.
He traveled to Hong Kong. He was saying, and he did what I forget what they're called, but he basically went away, to the service stuff, to do. What is it called? I don't. Doesn't matter. But anyway, so when you read Brandon Sanderson, you were like, "This is sort of like how I want to write," or did it just make you feel comfortable that, oh, okay, I can approach it with an architect's brain, but with the fluidity of a gardener?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think a lot of how he expresses the way that he goes about his process was really what resonated with me, because there wasn't anyone that explained things the way that I was explaining it, but not in the way that I was explaining it, because he explained it better. So like, it just, excuse me. Sorry about that.
Right.
That's what happens when you drink carbonated drinks. Yeah, no, it was really cool because I really valued what he had to say about that, and it made it easier for me to explain what I like about writing for myself and how that makes me unique in a way, because I love to have things structured, and like I love the world to be structured, and then I like to throw the people in it and then let them write themselves.
Interesting.
And that's kind of like the style, and I love the gardener aspect of that. It's like when you've placed everything in a certain way, everything should be able to operate on its own. You should never have to like truly guide anything in a certain direction unless there are beats and points where things have to happen. But I feel like anything leading up to that point can happen in whichever way they need to happen.
We call them narrative nodes.
Yes.
Where this thing will have to I have to get hit by a car, but what leads me to getting hit by the car? I get to do whatever I want.
Exactly. I love that. I think it's so much. There's so much fun in that, and when you're writing personalities that are actually true to life, I feel like you can count on the characters to really play themselves out authentically.
Especially if they play themselves, and you're just like, look, you played yourself, man. You're acting a fool over here, and I just don't have time for this. That's what happens when the news passed, and
well, Prince said it best. You playing me is playing yourself.
Playing yourself. You're the most beautiful girl in the world. Excellent basketball player.
Yeah,
look that up. I'm telling the audience, but I know any musician would know, and you're a musician.
Yeah, he will school you bad.
Yeah, well, not anymore. Now he's probably mostly bones. But we lost him young. Well, I was young. He was old. But so here's a question. This is a vulnerable question, and obviously, you could say. You could be like, nah, it never happened, Now you're like, where is he going with this? Don't worry. It's not how did you lose your virginity And why don't you talk to your uncle to this day? No, all right. So when you first got into writing and you were starting to write prose, which would completely be a different style than writing out the script, because a prose is filled with verbiage.
Yeah.
When because every writer has this moment. When was the first time you wrote something where you were just like, this is amazing what I'm writing, and then you gave it to someone to read and they were just like, yeah, and then their feedback was like, I don't like it, doesn't, there's something missing, like, have you had that moment, and if so, how did you deal with it? Because writers deal with that.
That's like all the time. I'm never happy with my writing to begin with. Like, I don't write.
I'm saying something you were like, wow, this is really good. Like in your mind, you were like, I think this, at least just this one passage,
Yeah,
the way I describe it, this feels so like visceral. And then somebody reads it and like, I don't know.
yeah, every time. Yeah, basically. Yeah, there's always
You're
someone who will read it and be like, they'd be like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Like, and they're like, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, that seems all right. That's a cool line. And it's like, well, I don't know how to process that. So I guess I'll just go back to the writing board.
You're like, I'm looking for the where chicken and the love scene. I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah, I like prose for me are like, they're so experimental. Like, you could try so many different angles for saying the same thing, and they just impact people differently. I find that like some people will think it's really cool. I don't know if I've ever gotten to the point where everyone unanimously just says, "Yeah, this is the fucking best line ever." But like I don't think I haven't gotten there yet at all. So I hope that one day that would be really amazing to get there. But yeah, I feel like I'm still at the beginning stages.
You're at the beginning stages, but all writers have, and this isn't a bad thing, you should have this. We've lost contact with the strike booty. He's back, Mr.
Yeah.
Quincy.
I don't even know what happened there. That was
It happens. I do it all the time.
And my camera works all of a sudden. I shouldn't have said that.
Your camera looks good. Where were we? Oh, yeah, I was saying all writers, right? Every single one of us, okay? About our prose, right? We're talking about a prose.
Okay.
All right. Let me fix this.
I like the circles. They're cool.
You like the circles?
Yeah, the circles are dope.
What is the circle? If the guest likes the circle stays. The circle has a square.
That much. They still need to see my face animated, right?
You look good. You look good.
Thank you.
So we were talking about prose and people looking at the prose and being like, "Oh, this is great," right? But I feel like at the end of the day, you don't need everybody to like what it is you write.
No.
The only person that needs to really like it is you. Like, you have to be happy with it. When it comes to selling, though, people need to understand it. The clarity is important, but everybody liking it. In reality, when it comes to it, there's a secret. I don't know if you know this secret. We're going to tell the secret. If you're listening right now, if you're an audience out there, the secret is about to unfold. All right. Huge. No. So believe it or not, the secret isn't necessarily everybody. It's 1,000 people. If you could get 1,000 people to like you, like truly become your true fans, 1,000 true fans, and you sell anything for $2, that's $2,000, right? But you can make $10 on a book. That's 10 grand. Then you sell a shirt and you make $5, $6 for that. That's another 6 grand. Because true fans will buy everything you got.
Yeah,
they just will,
Yeah.
So your goal is always to try to get at least 1,000 people to like your writing. So you don't need 1,001. You be happy with 1,000. But I'm also, that's only if you want to make money. If you don't want to make money, only you need to like it. If you want to make money, your writing or creative endeavor has to have clarity, even in singing, because you're a vocalist and a musician. Like, you could write whatever you want, but if it's all like in the mix and it doesn't make sense, you got to start over. It just has to be clear enough for the people who will like it to like it.
Exactly.
You know, that's why I got out of the porn industry, because they had, like, we only see the first half. We can't bring the camera, because if we bring the camera back far enough, we see all the fluffers and like the lights. We realize we're not. The illusion's gone, because now we see the wood framing of the room. It's only because I'm fat. I'm talking about my gut.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know what you were thinking about. Ridiculous. I'm trying to have a decent conversation with somebody.
The man says ridiculous. After saying all that. I digress.
Oh yeah, what color do you digress? No. All right. By the way, I love these kind of interviews where I can laugh and play with my friends, where we're just having a conversation. That's funny. All right, let's see. Oh wait, I got something here.
Okay.
I just got a message. What is this? Oh, awesome. Oh, all right. Okay. Somebody just sent me money and they're letting me know. Thank you. All right. All right. Well, 45 minutes in. I feel good about this. You want to answer a hot question?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. AI is rapidly changing the world, Quincy,
yes.
And its impact on writing is undeniable. What are your thoughts on this integration, and how do you see it shaping the future of storytelling?
Oh, I love this conversation, especially in conversations with AI. All right, so AI is rapidly changing the world, and its impact on writing is undeniable. Yes, this is true, but I also think that it's really, really at an infancy stage. It cannot fully write things. I mean, I've seen. I'll admit that there's Novel Crafter, and Novel Crafter has this integrated system where, with codecs of characters and certain things that you set up in a certain way, that it can actually write things in a pretty impressive way, but it still has its nuances that are really annoying. And I haven't used it personally, but I've watched a lot of people go through Novel Crafter, and it's given me some hope that there is potential for it. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to stand with the idea that taking material that is copyrighted and feeding it to a machine and having it take things that are not genuine to the person because it's a machine to write is probably not the best way to go. But I believe that for yeah, of course.
So when we read, by the way, just so everyone understands, I'm playing devil's advocate here. My position on it is AI should be used for one thing and one thing only when it comes to writing, and that is analyzation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have intent in a scene and you want to make sure that you ask it what is happening, or because it helps you with the clarity. If it could tell you what is happening, not writing your stuff, analyzing, it helps to make sure that you are indeed showcasing your intentions. With that said, devil's advocate, when we read books as just a reader who is also an author, and we are inspired by scenes and ideas, words, phrasings, descriptions, because how many times can you say the moon reflected off the mirror of the water rippling across, right? I'm sure somebody had to say the moon rippled across the lake top or something, right?
Yeah.
So when is that appropriate, and AI taking the collaboration of all these works and then and again, remember, I'm devil's advocating. When is it right and when is it wrong? Because if you as a reader are inspired by lines, write a line down or take a line and then you create a story around it, or you're just like, I love the way they describe this, I think I'm going to look at it that way. When is that not the same as AI just having a larger database than you, or authors in general?
I love this question. Okay, so There are two different brackets. There's one where you depend on AI to take what it already knows and then have it tell you what that phrasing should be over and over again. And then there's the analytical side of things where you have done the work to analyze the authors that you're inspired by. You then break down you use a prompt, for instance, to then ask the AI to analyze the writing style of those artists, then use the writing style of those authors to then interpret and analyze the phrasing that you've already used and let that give it suggestions to you as to how to change it.
Interesting.
So loopholing it so you're not like directly plagiarizing authors by saying, I want you to write it like in the way of Joe Hill.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, let's say you are the author and you read something from an author and it says the moon scattered across the top of the resting lake. And you're like, oh, I love that imagery. And then while you're writing, you get to a moment and you're like, oh, there's a lake. It's dark. The moon's out. The moon scattered across the calm lake.
Yeah.
Is that plagiarism?
I would say in literature it would be to some degree. Again, if I were to...
Then how do you say he said, she said? How do you say they got up on the horse? How do you say they walked through the door?
So
how do you say, right? Like, what is plagiarism?
So like I was saying to you, though, like you could, there are ways to go about it. You could directly use that influence to then put it in your book, and then people would either see it or not see it as being from that author or not from that author. Or you could do the work and analyze, which, I mean, now AI can actually help you to analyze the style of authors.
Well,
and if you really like that,
take AI
out of the picture. Okay.
And it's just you are reading a book and it says the moon scatters across the calm lake. And you're like, I love that visual. So then you're writing your book, which is 100% different up to this point. But you're on page 73 and you're writing your chapter and you realize it's dark. There's a calm lake and you're like, the moonlight scattered across the calm lake. Is that considered plagiarism or inspiration? Because it's not the same story. In fact, you're writing a romance and that came from a thriller.
I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. I don't know why.
How do you write they walk through the door? How do you write he said, she said? How do you write I'm happy for you? How do you write? Because there are phrases that we're going to use. For example, the light turned on. I'm going to use the light illuminated. No, I'm going to use the light exploded. No, I'm going to say the room took over. The room warmed over in the orange and yellows of the flame. Right? Like, there's going to be a certain point where there are phrasings that are going to repeat, but then there's also a certain point where we're going to have to use the same phrasings, just because how many times can you say they laid down on the bed?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Or
I don't know.
Cat farted, like
I don't know. As an artist in general, I could just see so many different possibilities of things and exhausting those before reaching the conclusion that I'm going to run out of ideas.
Well,
so for me, it's just
then to your point. You're like, I'm going to go through different ideas. So let's say you didn't get inspired by a book, but you decided to write a book, and you're reading through the book and it says the moonlight scattered across the calm lake. And then 3 months later, you're reading a book and it says, and it's a thriller, the moonlight scattered across the calm lake. Do you go back and take yours out? Because this book came out first, but you didn't read it until today. But it is a common phrase. The moonlight scattered across the calm lake.
If in situations for myself personally as an artist, if I found that I did something and then found out someone else did it, I would change it.
So so after you published a book, you would recall that book for one line,
if it's published
for one sentence, because you're an artist and you're like, well, somebody else used a very common phrase.
I'm
I
weird
need to
like
have to
that
recall my
though.
book.
I don't think I would recall my book for
Why
that.
not? You have a book.
In another edition of the book, I would note everything and be like, yeah, I'm gonna change it a little bit because
How would you
I don't
feel if
like.
that was the reason people bought the book was because of that line? Someone was like, I read that line and I was like, this guy is an amazing author. And now people buy the book and the line is missing. And it's changed to there was moonlight and it hit the lake and the lake was calm. And
I
how do you
don't
say the
know.
lake is calm?
It's so weird to say because like personally, I have this thing about like yeah, if someone else has already done it before me, I gotta like honor that and let them have it. Like, and
All
it's
right.
kind of one of those things where I would be like, yeah, I might have to change it, and
I
but then I
feel
wouldn't want people to be like, I'm gonna leave this version of it, and then they're gonna constantly compare the coincidence of that and the timeline and when it happened and you know, I would rather just do something. I mean, already, again, like you said, if it's published, at that point, it's already too late. But like,
it's too late. You're already plagiarized.
yeah, like I
Or
plagiarized it whether I realized or not done it. I don't know. What do you think? Like, what is like what are your opinion on that? Like that it's plagiarism or it's not? Like,
it's not plagiarism. Plagiarism is the replication of narrative heart or narrative depth. So like if I wrote a book about a clown alien that walks around with a red balloon and eats children and and lives off the fear, but comes around every 27 years or whatever it is. That's plagiarism because the but
yeah.
they live
Because you're
in New
following
York
the same
City.
thread. Yeah, you're following the same thread and then using the same
Yeah.
dialogue or narrative. Yeah.
But lines, you can't. Here's my example. This is an extreme devil's advocate. You make a comic book. You have to draw an arm. Do you draw where do you stop? Because it has been drawn in every single position that I'm making. Do you do this? Nope. Spider-Man does this. He puts it. You can't do this because that's trademark. All right, so he does this. Oh wait, other characters have their arms sticking out. So where is it? Where am I? I'm an artist. I'm a creative. I have to be unique. At what point, right? So that's the same thing with writing. Like the moon scattered across the calm of the lake is like a very. It sounds specific, but it's probably more common than you think.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
That's my point. Yeah. Like it's like he said, she said.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you not going to say he said, she said in the book because other people used it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There is a certain point.
Yeah.
We're kind of diverging from the question of AI, because I wanted to take that out because you said something that it actually was very interesting to me. So that's why I kind of was like, let's get AI out of there for a second. Because there is a certain point where you're going to write, they walk through the door. And then you're going to read another book and it's going to say, they walk through the door. And like, are you going to go back and change it? Well, I have to. I'm a creative. I'm an artist. And, I want to be unique. So they frolic through the door. And then you read another book and you're like, they frolic through the door. And you're like, son of a bitch. Now I got to go back again.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to say they leaped through the door. And then you read, they leapt through the door. Right? Like, I don't know if you know this, but the human brain on average only has 1,000 words in their familiar lexicon. Right? There are obviously more than 1,000 words in the world, but our brains at any given time have about 1,000 words. And then that's actually, there's a reduced value of that, of our repertoire, our lexicon is not as advanced as we would like it to be. There's only, you grow up in your, whatever it is, it could be the cultural surroundings. Like I know a lot of Italian and I'm sure other people don't, right? Because I grew up around Italian lexicon. So when it comes to writing, it's the same thing. And that's why I was saying AI has a mass collection of words that it sort of manipulates, takes apart and breaks up and kind of sort of creates these more often than not common phrasings. That's how you definitely know somebody's using AI. It's like,
exactly. Like, burgeoning, all these words that are just come up all the time. It's like, that's a damn thing.
They sneezed and it echoed across the tunnel. Like,
but barely a whisper.
A chill down his spine. But that brings me to, it has a mass collection, Whereas you or other authors might have, maybe you read 1,000 books in your lifetime, right? And there are going to be phrasings that are just going to stick with you that you might not intentionally want to use, but at some point you have to say, Quincy stepped through the door. Wow, it's really warm in here, he said. And are you going to be like, wait, I can't do any of that?
Yeah, exactly.
He can't said, and he can't walk through a door. So let's see. He farted through the door. No, there has to be somebody that said he farted through the door, right? You know what I'm saying? Like there is.
Yeah. I think that when I was younger, I definitely made it a lot more complicated than I realized it was. And then as now in the last couple of years, even just reading, like I've been reading a lot of Joe Hill books, went back to read Game of Thrones. I'm reading Elevator Pitch right now. I forgot the guy's name because it just slipped my mind. But I'm reading these books and I'm like, yeah, everyone's using, like, it's very, like, writing just feels so casual to me now. Like, it's like, yeah, it's a lot easier than it is because they're not burdening themselves with trying to sound smart or trying to sound different. They're just talking in English that you understand and is just relaying things the way that you normally would relay things. And there's going to be a lot of repetition with the things that you're saying. So that's a relief. When I'm writing, I'm not trying to look for this prolific way of writing or a prolific line that needs to happen. It's going to happen when the moment happens that I happen to say something. And I feel like that's where the best lines come out. It's like when you've reached a point where something unique in your scene, unique in your story has happened, and it changes the way that you interpret what is being said by characters or what that narrative is happening, where it would sound normal otherwise. But because of that moment, it just takes you somewhere else.
Yeah, and I'd even add, like, there's this thing where writers don't actually write in the POV of a character, or they don't write in a narrative. They're just, how do I make this look like I'm smart? Or what's the prettiest thing I could say here? What would be the most elegant thing? And you have to remember that you have to, even if you're in third person limited, you have to write in the voice of the POV. And if they're not an intelligent character, they wouldn't be looking at things intelligently.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
They could be smart, but intelligence is different than being smart. Right?
Exactly.
You could be smart. You could be whatever. Right.
And that's something that, even when you were saying about comic books and how to translate back into novel writing and long form, that was one of those things. I had the elements and certain things that were in my comic book stuff that I was like, yeah, this won't work in a novel. Because I'm going to be like, it's going to be nothing but exposition trying to explain a monster creature that's like popping up all the time. And then how many times am I going to explain it? Yeah, there are things where you can do that with that. Like it makes sense, right? Because
exposition, just because you bring up a really good point, and I think the audience could benefit from this. Like you're saying, I can't, and obviously, correct me if I'm misquoting you, but I'm simplifying it. You're saying you can't write lots of exposition to explain what a monster can or can't do, but in a comic book, you pretty much can. But in reality, you could break up that explanation and make it happen through movement. So if the monster can shoot lightning bolts, have them shoot lightning bolts. You don't really have to explain how they shoot lightning bolts because that becomes soft magic. If it's imperative to the narrative that we know how they shoot lightning bolts, we would learn through the POV of the characters who can shoot lightning bolts, right? That's why Gandalf is not the POV, so it's soft magic because we don't learn his magic system. He just can either shall not pass, right? Or, run, you fools, or fly, you fools.
He's meant to feel like a god. That's why you're not supposed to ever understand his.
Well, he is a god. He's an angel. He's the form of one of the gods. But anyway, but Frodo's magic, the ring, is highly informed and is considered hard magic because we know if he puts it on, it turns invisible, but also Sauron can see him, right? We know that he's being corrupted by the ring every time he puts it on or has it near him. So it's explaining the rules of the ring, whereas Gandalf's magic isn't necessarily explained. So to your point, if you have exposition where you're like, I need to explain this, all you got to do is break it up into seated moments throughout the book or the narrative, and then say to yourself, well, how do I show this? You know, like for example, in my epic fantasy, there are different variations of casters. So there are casters that can just have the ability to manipulate magic in the sense, but then there are ones that need like conduits. You know, they need like, and there's the blindness. You could cast like blinding, right? And you have to have like mirror dust, and you throw the mirror dust out, and you say the magic word, and then the sun reflects off the mirror dust, and then it blasts out a huge thing, right? So instead of explaining that before the character gets there, I have him feeling the mirror dust in his pouch. And then I have him throw the mirror dust. And then I have him say the word, which I don't explain what the word is. He just says the magic word, right? And then the thing happens. I describe the visual of it. And now that's the exposition, but it's through movement. And that's a really strong way to explain things to readers without explaining it. Sometimes you don't have to set it up that way, but you can set up little things, you know. But listen, Quincy, we are an hour in, so it's time to ask you the question I ask every single person, every single guest. How big? No,
take
what
it
is well, I'm 6'2", my stomach. All right. What is one piece of advice you discovered about writing, either through someone else informing you or you yourself discovering it, that completely changed the way you approach the writing process?
What is one piece of advice you discovered about writing, either through someone else or yourself, that has completely changed the way you've just... Okay. I love the process of outlining. I really do. Without that, I would have very non-structured stories. Even just to like figure out pacing, figuring out each chapter and where things can go, even without knowing like the just the art of storytelling, anything with story structure and the pulling under the rug, the all is lost moment. Without all of that, even when I didn't know that and I was writing and writing innately, I always had an instinct of where things needed to be, and just having the idea of where you want things to go and how much story you want to tell within a chapter is very important. I think that outlining, for anyone who is actually an architect, you need to have an outline and understand what you're doing with your outlines. That is very, very important.
Yeah.
And you and I talk about that all the time. Like I love it so much. I know not a lot of people like it at all, and I hear a lot of stories about people who really don't like to outline. But it's everything. It's everything to me. Yeah. It just makes everything so much clearer, and plugging in, piecing things together in different areas. That's always fun for me too. It's like, we're not going to put that there. We're going to put it here instead.
Yeah.
And
when and where is Magneto taking a dump? Like
exactly. How big a dump? What's the toilet like? Does the toilet have its own? Is the toilet a secondary character? Like, just
is it experiencing a hard experience? And to outlining, a lot of fear comes from the idea that it's rigid and I like to discover, but in reality, while you're outlining, you should be discovering your narrative. It's not written before you write it, so you have to come up with this beat, and then this beat leads to this beat, and this beat leads to this beat, and then you're going to look over those beats and like, what can I add for subplots, or is there world building here? Who likes a cornetto, who doesn't? So you have to outlining is more than just having a rigid plan. It is creating this flowing, living document that you should be comfortable adjusting when and where you have to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's an artistry in itself to be a gardener. Like I don't know how people do it. There are some people who are probably I don't know. That's a thing in itself. But as an architect, I think people have to really understand that there is an art to that in itself, and you got to follow, or at least understand how you want to kind of put it all together, and then use some sort of story structure to kind of figure out what works best, and then working with someone who can then make it all kind of clean it up a bit and whatever. But that should be the fun part. That should always be the fun part, where you just don't put any restrictions on it.
So what you're saying is, as per your answer, before you discovered outlining, you were more of a gardener? You would just be like, where does it go?
No, I would say that actually, I guess I could say that I might have been more of a gardener in that sense because
Yeah,
I didn't really know about story structure in the technical way,
yeah.
but from an innate way, I kind of had this flow that obviously I've borrowed from books I've read as a kid. Like there was obviously
Well, yeah,
some
like
sort
you
of
got to
story
start
structure.
somewhere. There has to
Yeah,
be like, it's
yeah, like
something
there's
happens.
yes, story middle end. You get an
Yeah,
idea of like when you understand enough, like if you've done enough reading, you can feel the pattern. And
yeah,
I think I've always felt the pattern, and you could feel that in the way that I was writing books in the past, even through comic books. It's the same way I was
yeah.
doing that.
Which is a
But
gardener trait, though, because they're
yeah,
not necessarily going. They might not say Frodo throws the ring in Mordor at the end. Like they might not
mhm,
write that, in their head. They'll just be like, he's walking through the thing, and like, oh, you know what? He's gonna fight a spider here. Oh, it'd be really cool. And then eventually they go, well, how are we gonna destroy this ring? Well,
yeah,
they are going to Mordor, and there's a volcano. So why? And then they might
yeah.
go back and start seeding the fact that they have to.
Yeah, it's interesting that you really brought a good point up there because I wouldn't even have considered myself a gardener in that sense. But the way you're explaining it now, it actually makes sense that I probably was a gardener,
Yeah,
just in a weirdly elusive architectural way. Like I obviously had an idea of kind of where things were going to be and how they were going to be
yeah,
structured, but I kind of, for the most part, kind of saw where the story was going, had things end the way
yeah.
that they would, landing in certain spots that felt like there would have been a story structure, but in reality, there wasn't.
Yeah, you have scenes or ideas, but they're not necessarily. You don't have them linked, and you have to
Yeah.
work towards them, and that would be the gardening or quote unquote
Hmm.
discovery. But but when you read, even if you're not an architect, you like imagine Frodo threw the ring in Mordor in chapter 1. Like,
Hmm.
it wouldn't be interesting.
Yeah.
Like, just picture that whole scene. It's like, I may not be able to carry the ring for you, Frodo, but I can carry you. And then he picks him up. It wouldn't have the same emotional impact because we haven't built a relationship with these characters. We haven't seen
Exactly.
them suffer. Was Frodo always a dick? But no, it's the ring that made him that way. So we don't get to see his tragedy, and that's the brilliance of, I would say, not just outlining, but understanding narrative movement is,
Hmm.
like you do have to set things up to challenge them. You
Yeah.
do have to disrupt what you set up so the story happens. Because if the ring never got found, you know, there would be no Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like if Bilbo just kept the ring, I was like, I'm gonna go see the owls, and he just kept his ring, and he's like, I'm out, bitches.
Yeah.
Like there would be no story. But
Yeah.
you have to have that inciting. You have to attack and just manipulate that ordinary world. It's how romance film stories happen. There's a meet cute. That's the inciting incident. They
Yeah.
hit each other's head or whatever. Trying to pick someone up. They go, oh, sorry, and they're like, oh, we're gonna have the sex. Like, but you have to put chapter. You can't just start off. Don't get me wrong, though. You can do a flash forward. Like you could start the book off with Frodo throwing the ring in Mordor, and then it goes, "Yep, that was me." But let me tell you how I got there.
I knew you were going to say
Right? You know what I'm saying? But at the same
that.
time, it doesn't have the same emotional impact.
Exactly, because you've already seen the end, so you know how it's going to end, and it
Yeah.
kind of ruins that moment, which is actually the most important moment.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like I don't get it. Like, why is he throwing a ring in the? I don't even know why he's in the volcano.
Hmm.
Like, there's more questions than there is, and that's what exposition is, by the way, in narrative. It's just to set things up and inform the reader so you can challenge, set up, seed, and pay off things. Right? If you don't explain something clear enough, then there is no payoff. I like to do it over the course of a few chapters to explain
Hmm.
things, or even the whole book, and just they seed through as they're reading it. They're like picking up on all these things. Like I have things called yarbers or the Naradita. Like I don't have to explain to the audience who the Naradita are. I need to show the Naradita being these people, right? And this culture, and like giving them beyond them being mystical, you have to give them humanity. You have to give them traits, right? because that's the big issue with writing, what might be considered Native Americans, even though they're from a different planet. They live in the plains. So if you live on the plains and they're living off the land, there's going to be some crossover for the biased reader. But if they're just like natives and they're just like, yes, we live off the land, like people are going to be like, this is terrible. But so you have to give them depth.
Yeah.
But if you explain that depth, you can't build relationships with the reader. The characters become flat.
Yeah.
Because they're not being exposed to, I like how they pray, or I like how their philosophies, right? Anyway, I'm getting into craft now, but not cheese. You guys have craft in Canada, or has that been
yeah, I was eating craft. I was a craft kid.
You're a craft kid, right?
Yeah.
What is something that's in Canada that's not in the States, and what is something that's in the States that has never been in Canada? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is something very Canadian?
We have nutritional values that you guys do not have in the States. And in the States, you have a lot more variety for all sorts of shit that we will never be able to have in Canada.
That's so true.
Our nutritional value ruined anything that we could ever have in Canada because of the States.
But may I push back? And I am not pro borders. I believe that we should be a one world nation that supports one another and helps one another as humans. But with that said, though, Canada, specifically Quebec, did not. I don't know if they stopped yet, but they didn't stop smoking in restaurants until the states. The states stopped. They made laws that you can't smoke in restaurants and stuff like that way before the Canadians. And because when I went touring up there with my band, that everybody was, I'm trying to eat breakfast and there's just this ashtrays and people are smoking. So we may be the fatter people, but we can. Some of us can breathe. I can't, but some of us.
Well, they're killing you with food, man. They're killing you with all that good food that tastes so damn good and it's so cheap. But my God, what is it made of?
Yeah, but wouldn't you love
how many calories?
Pizza? Don't you want to have?
Of course, I want New York pizza.
That's what I'm saying.
I want food from the States. They deprive us here of good flavored food. Yeah. Because the nutritional value if it goes beyond a certain amount.
They're like, nope. Well, they do that with the phones too, right? Like there's a certain frequency that the phones can't have or something with the.
I think so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do they still smoke in restaurants out there, by the way? Or is it
no.
They got rid of that finally?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Definitely.
Yeah, what is the biggest? What is the biggest misconception of Canada that is a trope or a stereotype
that it's always winter?
Wait, what? It's always winter.
That it's always winter and we have polar bears everywhere, and that's not true.
I know there are a lot
because
of
we're
bears.
in the north doesn't mean that we're all north. North is like Northwest Territories and other places in the other provinces have that shit, but polar bears and they just think that when they come to Canada at all in any province, that's just gonna be winter wonderland and that there's gonna be polar bears. Yeah.
Now, do you get upset like the people in the Game of Thrones where they're like, "You're from the north," and they're like, "What? No, you're from the south." You're the truth. You're because they're like, "We're northerners," and they're like, "No, you're not, Stark. You're the southerners," and they're like, because they are technically from the north, but whatever they're called, what are they called? I don't know, the people beyond the wall. They're Lance Wayne or whatever is he's the king of the wildlings.
There we go, wildlings. Yeah,
but they're always like, we're from the north. You people are from the south.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean, you people? That's they just hate each other with that stuff.
Yeah, I guess that would be relative, right? Like if I'm over here, I mean, people in the States think we're in the north, and we're like, actually, what? And then people who are actually in the north, like well in the north, you know, they're the ones who are going to be like, yeah, you're not from the north. What the hell are you talking about?
I agree.
You know?
I agree.
Yeah.
How many people try to sneak into Alaska to get to Russia?
I have no idea. I mean, it makes sense, but like,
wouldn't all Canadians know this so they can? Because there's supposed to be some.
Alaska's the States. I don't know if anyone. I rarely hear about.
It's off of Canada.
It's so weird, right? Like I was always thought, like, why is what? I know, like, this like, piece of land. Why would you even want it? Like what?
Well, because it's right there. There's a lot of oil there, and Sarah Palin, but What? Don't you know? I was in the pretty girl contest. We shoot the mooses up here. That's what you used to say all the time. I go hunting. I get the mooses. It's not even, anyway. All right. I guess why don't you tell the audience how they can find you, Mr. Quincy of the Jackson House of Jackson?
I have recently switched up my social medias, and although there's nothing on my social medias at the moment because I'm about to put up some new stuff, you can still find me on Instagram at the Quincy Jackson. And that would be the main way to get to me. I also have Facebook, which is Quincy Jackson.
The Quincy Jackson.
The Quincy Jackson on Instagram, which used to be Strike Boogie, but I have switched.
And you strike that.
So you got to strike that.
You got to strike that.
I have my Strike 3, and now it's out.
The Quincy. You want to hear a fun fact about Mr. T?
Sure.
I'm only bringing it up because you said the Quincy. Mr. T's first name is Mr. T. I don't know if you know that. He changed it to Mr. T, so people had to call him Mr. Isn't that a fascinating characteristic of a human being?
You know what? I could see that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I always called him Mr. T. I mean, then I also actually looked like Mr. T Baby. Like they used to say when I was a kid that they thought that my father was Mr. T because I literally had to know. Yeah, I pitied the fool in every way. I pitied the fool.
I pitied the fool. Are you part of the A team? That's what I really need to know. He's B.A. Baracus. But he also grew up in a time where like people disrespected his community. So when he was growing up, he always like the way they talked to his father or like all these other things. And he's just, when he got to a certain age, he changed his name to Mr. T. And so very interesting fellow, by the way. Strongman competition, the way his career kind of like how it went. He was also an extra in the Blues Brothers movie. You barely see him. He flashes by when they're driving through the thing to get to the bank, like towards the end of the movie. Mr. T is in that movie. So that's
nice.
Little trivia. All right, that's it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Actually, I love Mr. T as a kid. So, yeah, and he had that Mr. T cereal, so I was all about that too. So, which is basically Captain Crunch. Yeah, it was Captain Crunch with T on it. That's all it was.
In Canada, because there's zero. Yeah. You're putting broken glass in your mouth. It cuts up your teeth.
Oh my gosh.
That the other day.
I loved it so much when I was a kid.
Well, why don't you marry it? No, all right.
So, all
right. Quincy Jackson, thank you so much for being a guest on The Right Mindset, as always. It's a pleasure, as they say. Do you know the call out? Do you know how to get out of the show, or do you don't actually?
No, no, I didn't watch to the end of those. I don't know the call out. Oh shit. I get to the end and then I just
He's just like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I watched 5 minutes. I can't watch this guy anymore.
The music.
Can you hear?
It's groovy.
I have to get some of your instrumental music and put it on here.
Yo, I thought I could just make you some music for your channel.
I'll just say, I'll just have it like when we're doing the writing sprints, we could just have it playing.
Just have a video of the cat or the dog when they move their dog around and just with sunglasses.
I'd like a variation though. I would like boom doom boom boom ba boom boom boom
Right.
boom boom, and then maybe go into like mix it up a little bit.
Right.
Anyway, all right. So if everybody's listening, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. This was The Right Mindset. And as always, please keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time.